everybody. Welcome back to the Cyber Revolution podcast. Thanks for joining us yet again. I'm Adam Hewitt, the CEO of Cyber Revolution, and today I'm joined by a current student of ours, Ross Tutin. Ross, how you going?
Pretty good, Adam. How about you?
Very good, very good. We're both very busy. We were talking about it offline, how busy we are. The cybersecurity industry is, busier than ever, and I'm really, really excited to have you on and talk about what you're doing. So, Ross, as I mentioned before, is a current student, so I wanted to get him on. But he's also landed a role. I thought it was quite recently, but something that I also learned was he's almost had about 11 or 12 months in the industry in his job in cybersecurity. So, Ross was one of the fortunate students of ours to start studies and then land a role reasonably early in your cybersecurity journey. And I think what'll be really cool about this episode is how you have balanced working, changing careers, getting a job in cybersecurity full time, and also studying. I'm
Mm.
assuming that would have been pretty intense over the past 12 months. So we'll get into that. Before we do, everyone, I want to give the new listeners of the podcast a bit of an overview of who this podcast is for. We're finding that our listenership is growing a lot. So thank you for that. So Cyber Revolution, we are Australia's only dedicated cybersecurity training and placement institute. We specialize in finding people their first job in cybersecurity. And so the point of this podcast is to really break down some of the common misconceptions about cybersecurity. It is, not a new industry, but we've found over the past 3 to 5 years, we've had, there is a huge drive and a huge want for more people to get into this space. But there are some misconceptions around what skills you need to learn, what certifications you need to do, what an entry level cybersecurity role even is. And so we want to answer all of those questions to the masses through this podcast and really just help people understand what this industry is about and I guess try and help them land their first job in cybersecurity. That's what it's all about. So if that sounds interesting, if that resonates, this could be the podcast for you. All right, Ross, first question. I'm going to start from
Yes.
what I do from the very beginning, where I do with all of our guests.
hmm
Walk us through what you were doing for work before you even, I guess, decided to change careers into cyber.
Wow, that's going to be very big and broad because when I think about it, I've been working in in lots of industries for over 20 years now. So as soon as I left school, and even before I left school, I had this big dream of working in the airlines. Loved planes, loved travel. Over the years, I've been able to get to varying points of working in in the travel and tourism industry, which was my first calling. So I've worked in wholesale and retail travel. I was one of the last to get what was then Tourism Queensland's travel cadetship program before they closed that off about 22 years ago in the early 2000s. So I did my tourism diploma as well, and worked got finally got into the airlines with a detour via Flight Centre, and then in between, I was working on a business degree part time, so got a little bit of experience working in international airlines. I then went to government in local government and tourism. Did another stint with the Sultanate of Brunei as their tourism manager for Australia and New Zealand once upon a time. And then continued on in local government in tourism and economic development. And then I was hitting ceilings, over the probably just before that period of COVID, I was hitting the ceilings of what I could get to do in that industry. COVID happened, sort of kept going, did a little bit of work in not for profit as a bit of a detour just to see where that could have taken me because I have a lot of experience in not for profit and volunteering on the side with a number of organizations. And then couldn't sort of hit, I was hitting ceilings there as well. So I went, what am I going to do if apparently the world wants me to work for another 20 or 30 years, so seeing I'm now in my early 40s. So, how do I future-proof myself was the conversation I was having. And so probably before my not-for-profit contract was coming up to finish, I started researching what I needed to do. And here I am, sort of thought, well, I better get back into some, I dabbled in IT back in my younger teenage days. So I thought, why not come back into it? And cyber sort of started to come up as something that I could cross match skills that I have. in business, in government, and things like that into something like this. And here we are, decided to take the leap June last year in 2023.
Amazing. Mate, thanks for that story. I think there's a few key takeaways there. You were in one industry for how long?
Look, I was in travel and tourism for almost 15, 17 years. Yeah.
17 years. And you were realizing you weren't getting that progression, which is something that we hear a lot around why
Mm,
cybersecurity is attractive. We found that we had a huge um, increase in inquiries around around the COVID space, because
mm,
obviously a lot of industries like um, the travel industry, like the hospitality industry, like the retail industry, all of a sudden people are like, wow, my career is not as secure as I thought it was. Was that
mm.
the real catalyst to start looking for opportunities?
Yeah, it was a little bit. When COVID struck, I ended up getting into economic development through local government as a sidestep from tourism. But a lot of my friends and colleagues that I've known in worked in travel, some of them I've known for 20 years or more. Over COVID, they've left at varying times, and we all looked and nodded to each other, going, "Thank goodness we weren't really in tourism and travel at that particular time." And we were relatively lucky that we could use some of our skills to cross over to some other areas. But and look, some people do see government work as very stable and very comfortable. But certainly, I was hitting ceilings and sort of thought, wow, this is the time to look at what can I find in a niche area and in an area that allows me to a grow, but be future proofing myself. Because if I'm hitting ceilings now in my 40s, I've got to work till 70 or so and more. Um, how do I work that was very much in the forefront of my mind, particularly in the late 22 into early 2023 was how those sort of thoughts were being brought together.
Okay, great. And so I think I know the answer to this, but like, I guess why was cybersecurity attractive to you?
So I dabbled in a bit of IT back in my younger days as a teenager, and back in the days where you could build stuff and computers and things like that. And ICT classes were very much part of my high school upbringing. And I nearly did go into IT early on. When I was picking my courses out of high school, it was like, do I follow the love of travel and tourism that I wanted to do, or do I look at IT? I was, encouraged to go to the passion, go to what I wanted to do, and so I followed that path. But it's fortuitous that 25 years later, after I've graduated from high school, that I'm now going back into IT because I thought that was an area that will have some longevity. There's going to be a need for cyber and IT work for years to come. So therefore, let's look at what I've got now in my business and government skills, and then dovetail it over to where the skill shortage is at the moment.
Amazing. Okay, so you clearly sound like somebody who did your research on the industry first. You
Yes.
kind of like, okay, I actually see some transferable skills here because this is what I bang on about all of the time
Yeah.
to our students. This is the
Mm,
main thing. And this is why we typically help career changers, people like yourself who have got 5, 10, 15, 20 years experience in other industries. There are
mm,
so many transferable skills that you can shift over to cybersecurity. Not saying
mm,
it's impossible when you're a university leaver, it is possible. But
mm,
you do have a lot less of those professional skills and transferable skills that these companies are looking for. It's the
mm,
technical skills and the cybersecurity skills that you will learn on the job, but those skills that
mm.
you've built up over years and years and years, I've kind of probably allowed you to excel in your first entry level role, which we're going to talk about a little bit more of what those transferable skills were. Before we do, tell us a
Yeah.
little bit
Yeah.
about the role that you landed.
So, uh, about a week after I started with Cyber Revolution, through networks, talking to people, letting them know what I was doing, which the initial plan was, look, I'm going to have 2 or 3 months to study hard with a career change. And then look at through Cyber Revolution the opportunities that could bring from the industry placements that you have with your partners and organizations you work with. So sort of thought I, would sneak into something like that over time. And my wife and I sort of prepared myself for life of, 2 or 3 months of, only one income and
Yep.
things like that because
Oh,
I got a
you
payout. So
you had no income, it was just full-time study, let's go.
it was just that was the plan, full-time study just to get, 2, 3, 4 months of that study done, see where, the winds would blow, and hopefully something will turn up. Well, lo and behold, um, speaking to people and letting them know of what I was doing, um, you know, connections of connections landed me to somebody, funnily enough, that goes to the same church as I do. And he called me out of the blue, and said, "I hear you're looking for a job." And I said, "Yes. What are you looking at doing?" And I said, "Funnily enough, I've started doing some certifications in IT so I can go into cyber and things like that." And he went, "Hmm. I work for an insurance company and I am, working in their cyber areas and I'm looking for somebody. So why don't we talk?" And we had an interview. I was replacing somebody who was leaving his team, and they were looking for, and they've always had trouble finding somebody looking for cybersecurity compliance. And so I, after the interview, was able to land a job as a cybersecurity compliance partner with insurance firm Gallagher.
Mhm.
So we're a very large United States-based insurance company that does brokerage, third-party management, and also reinsurance. So he said, "Here is a job," and
Amazing.
that was nearly 12 months ago right now. So he saw the transferable skills I had,
Yep,
the passion that I was looking at
yep.
to getting the certifications, and I seem to have been a very good fit with the culture of the company as they look for as part of their recruitment process, and that all sort of landed into place.
Amazing. How good's that? And I think like that is the power of your network, but also the power of telling people what you're doing. Like we always preach here, networking is such a core part of whether it's cybersecurity and industry, letting people know who know you and who know your transferable skills, what you're doing and what you're looking to do, because it could be a friend of a friend of a friend that then, has a conversation and reaches out and it's an opportunity. Happened to one of our students the other day, actually. He was down at one of his kids' soccer games. He's about halfway through his program and was just talking to somebody, one of the other kids' dads on the sideline. And that resulted in him working now for the New South Wales government in a cyber role. And
Fantastic.
so you don't want to, scream from the rooftops every time you meet someone that you're studying cybersecurity, but always have it there to have a conversation around what you're doing, because you never know where
Mm,
it could lead to. I think it's really, really important.
definitely.
Um,
Definitely.
Amazing. Okay, and so what were some of those transferable skills? You've been in the industry now for 11 months. Talk us through
Yes.
those.
Look, for me, having a business background, and having done that in tourism with my degree, and then working in government, so I've worked in local government, and so I understand, a lot of aspects of compliance, procurement, risk, and good office administration, research, looking at research, reading documents, sort of having an understanding of what here's your task, bringing it to fruition. And so using those skills, those business skills that you get, writing reports, working, communicating through email, communicating through, networking as well, because working for a large corporation have many divisions. So I'm on the Asia Pacific cyber team. So we've got Australia businesses, New Zealand businesses, Asia businesses that you've got to work with. So you understand those cultural differences and working in different time zones and things like that. So a lot of those factors I felt were very much transferable skills. And so that was aligning me to what I was looking at, which was that GRC, governance, risk, and compliance area, because I'm not technical. If you put me in front of a computer airline reservation system, I can give you every code. I love that. But Python, forget it. That's not what I'm looking at. And I'm not wanting to be the guy in the hoodie, trying to do, technical, hacking. I want to look at how I can use my business and because I'm on boards of not-for-profit organizations. So I've got government experience, looking at that strategic and compliance and governance directions. So using that mindset, so how companies, how organizations use that to benefit their cybersecurity program was definitely something I wanted to look into. And this particular role is starting to get me into that, into those areas that a lot of people in cyber that come from a technical background sort of lump into, and then they go, look, I like the technical side, not the paperwork. So, the paperwork's got to be there. You've got to look at ISO, you've got to look at NIST, you've got to look at regulations and Privacy Act and everything else. Have somebody with the business mind do that while they're learning the technical side of cyber on the side.
Correct. And I think that's where a lot of people potentially don't even look at exploring cybersecurity because they think, "Oh, I'm not really technical. I'm not going to get into it because, I don't want to code. I don't want to program. I don't want to do all of that technical stuff." And,
Mm,
it's unfortunately, it holds a lot of people back because they're just not sure about the other avenues that are available to them in cybersecurity. We talk about the two pathways, typically the consulting or the governance, risk and compliance, which is a lot more client facing, a lot more as you said, paperwork, a lot more relationship building. Whereas the other side is the opposite. It's the technical, and I think it's really important. And what I think something for our listeners to really grab hold of here with what you were saying, is that you really quickly identified what you do have and grabbed
mm,
hold of that, your strengths, and went
yeah.
all in on it. Not what you don't have. And this is again something for everyone listening in. If you're applying for jobs or you want to get into cybersecurity, common mistake we see is people focusing, or their mindset is focusing on what they don't have, not what they do have. They're like, "Oh, I'm a chef. How could I possibly be cybersecurity professional? I don't have any technical skills. I don't have this. I don't have that." I'm like,
But they have the people skills.
exactly. And they have
Mm,
a high pressure environment like a SOC would
yeah.
be. You've worked in a kitchen for X amount of years. These transferable skills are everywhere. So,
Working with procedures, this is how you cook your thing.
yep,
This is how you get the meal out.
yep.
You can transfer that by reading the operating procedure and the technical, learning how process works. Mm,
Methodical. Yeah, exactly right. Exactly. So they are everywhere around. So if you're listening, you can get into this industry. You do have transferable skills, but the main thing is
you
obviously
do.
you have to be interested and passionate about it. How have you
Mm.
found that now that you're working in the industry? Is it what you expected? Are you finding that you're just so excited about the next 5, 10, 15 years in the industry?
Well, I am actually excited because there's a lot of opportunity, I think, particularly for people in GRC area to be part of it because a lot of the industry is still technical minded, and a lot of good technical people, which is great. But how do we bridge some of the issues that is communicating what cybersecurity is, communicating how secure you have to be, and now probably even looking at talking about and communicating what is artificial intelligence and AI with cyber and the opportunities and the risks and the challenges of that is, I think, is going to be, a very exponential thing, and it will never end. So therefore, I think if you do have those, uh, those people skills, relationship skills, business skills on, writing documents and research and doing office administrations and things like that. And on top of that, if you've got, if you've worked in a little bit of government before, well, your procurement process is a structure. It's a compliance thing, so you can take that along with you, which is along what I've done. I'm a volunteer scout leader, so you look at risk management all the time. So how in terms of doing a activity for youth safely. So therefore, you've got a concept of risk management. Now you can take using a career in cyber, you can use those skills and take it to that next level so that you can succeed in a career that you can enjoy and passion about, and then hopefully give you that longevity is what I'm looking forward to as well. Mm,
Amazing. And like this is the secret sauce. If everyone listening in, this is the secret sauce to being successful in your interviews. And it's obvious why you managed to land a role a week or two into your studies. Not that that is the expectation. Typically, our students have to complete some certifications before they get into one of the roles. But I can
yeah.
see why.
And every journey is different. Yeah.
Exactly.
Every journey is different. And so I'm just one example. Hopefully the stuff that is part of our conversation and all your other podcast conversations. And I remember listening to your early ones back when I was looking at what I need to do to look at a career in cyber. Definitely, you take your tidbits out of all of them to make you cement your own path and your own journey into cyber.
Correct. And so just on that technical skill set, you're not in a technical role. You had
Mm,
spent 17 years in one industry, more or less, and you decided
mm.
to change careers into cybersecurity. Like, without any technical IT experience, I know you 15, 20 years ago, you thought about it. Were you nervous about changing careers and upskilling? Because I mean,
A little bit,
you had to have
yeah.
been, because you went all in. You quit your job and you just like, I'm going to go all in on
Yeah,
this.
the contract finished and I had nothing. So it was like I had to sort of, you either be on the merry-go-round for looking for jobs and what I could do, but then couldn't sort of get it because everybody else was trying to get the same job with you, or start looking at something different. And so for me, I was nervous, but there was a lot of trepidation with it as well. And I think having a good support network around you does help. So my wife, my family and friends, colleagues and mentors that I've kept in touch with over the years, were, also adds to the mix of giving you that confidence of taking that step. And also hopefully giving, because that support base, helps you cement in actually taking that with a lot more confidence than just sort of taking the step of into the unknown without any idea what's going to happen, which will still be there. But having the backing helps you taking that step into the unknown rather than just taking the step to the unknown, but or being held back because of that fear. So definitely, I felt nervous. But as I went through my A+, I sort of went, oh, I have remember some of this from my high school IT days.
It's still there, the basics. Yeah, yeah. And look,
Um, and then going through some of because I'm nearly there with Network Plus at the moment. So I'm hoping to have my exam in the next couple of weeks. But you get an overall picture of how an interconnected computer system works, particularly for a global company. And then knowing the lingo, I can go, oh, now I know what they're talking about. Because when I'm in our office in Brisbane for work, I sit right in front of our IT help desk.
okay.
So I hear them all the time and I go, "Oh, now I know. Yes.
Yep,
Yeah,
yep, yeah. And
exactly." So I
mm,
think once you step in and the confidence grows.
of course, every single one of our students is a mixture of nerves and excitement before they start. And some students or some people, unfortunately, let those nerves or the fear hold them back. You get to about sort of 90% there, you're like, okay, I want to get into this industry. I know I need to upskill, but for whatever reason, they may not have that, be fortunate enough to have the support network you did, or for whatever reason,
Mm,
they let that fear hold them back, which is a real shame.
mm,
Um, but you do need to take a little bit of a leap of faith, and you want to have a good mixture of nerves and excitement, which I think
you do.
is what you had.
Mm.
Okay, great. So, um, what did I want to have a quick chat about? Oh, yes, you were saying before you're really excited about the career progression in cyber and the longevity
Mm.
within the role that you're in now. Have you kind of thought about what that looks like what you want to be doing in the next 5 years? Because you mentioned at the start, progression is key for you.
Progression is key, but I think for me, because I've got a long journey to go, this role that I've got at the moment is a good way of getting experience and runs on the board. So I'm working in a compliance area and with a GRC team that is looking at um, keeping and securing data, not only our companies, but we have a lot of other companies' data on their behalf as well. So understanding, the due diligence process that a lot of other companies do for, to us, so they, are comfortable with how we secure their data. Um, Third party risk is starting to become a bit of a big thing because sometime, and I think, and as we record this in June 24, Ticketmaster had a hack which came through a third party. So third party risk management programs will start to be a big thing, and that's one of the responsibilities I have with my role is looking at and how we're onboarding our third-party risk management program for our IT vendors for all the business divisions that I have in the Asia Pacific region. So because our American corporate office has the program, we just haven't transplanted it to here. So there's a lot of work in that I could look at in third party. I could look at we've got our own internal AI program, which is in house, and that's being slowly developed. What are the governance risks? What are the ethics? What are the risk management things involved in that in the future that I could look at for the company and such, and then whether that's a long career progression with my current company or whether I do, hop from other areas. Airlines might not have as much cybersecurity as you think, or they might should do, sort of thing. Having worked in the airlines and some of the traditional infrastructure organizations still have very legacy systems. So, and airlines is one of them. So, how do we future proof those? So, maybe be able to go back to, the dream of working with the airlines and suddenly working at that in the cyber sort of way. Or even in just the consultancy area. So, yeah, over time, or, you know, uh, yeah, boards are looking for experience, and I have not-for-profit experience on boards and executive committees. So maybe that's the side way as you start to get older, and then you retire and need the pocket money, sort of thing. So those sorts of wide things is what I'm looking at to try and develop as a career in that GRC space. That I think is a very much a niche area that needs to will evolve over 5, 10, 15, 20 years or more.
100%. And all, as you said, all industries, all businesses are going to need it.
Mm,
Even third party organizations as well. Like we see within the industry now, if you are interested in governance, risk, and compliance, there is a huge, need for it. The
mm,
challenge is at the moment, companies are also is headhunting. You have
mm,
1 to 2 years or 2 or 3 years experience in GRC. These guys are being offered exponential cash, like a lot of money, 160 to 200 grand a year, and you've just had a
mm.
couple of years in the industry, and they get
Yeah.
headhunted from organizations. But I
Mm,
think from what I've been speaking to a lot of our students at Cyber Revolution, they really value not just the initial cash grab. They're not in it for just to earn, whoever's going to pay them the most, and
mm,
they often tell us, this company that I'm currently working for, yes, I've only been with them for 18 months or 24 months, whatever it is, but they are, um, what's the word I'm looking for? They feel like they at least owe it to that organization to stay with them for a few years,
mm.
because they're the organization that gave them their first shot in cybersecurity.
Exactly. Definitely.
And I think that's really important as well, to retain, for organizations to be able to retain their GRC talent is a real challenge at the moment.
And it's good to get some runs on the board,
Yeah.
because the more you can say you've got experience in those GRC areas, whether it be ISO, information security management manuals, or knowing the particular areas of third party risk, or even general risk management, or things like that. The more you get that experience, and the more that in your early stages did you cement it, I think the better you can actually start to get those, headhunted jobs that are going to be, high six figures that you were mentioning. I'm not getting the six figures now, but I know that this is the start of the journey, rather than, I'm not going to get my 100K or more as I was getting into the industry. You got to work at it, and you got to, progress it up. So that's how you've got to have that mindset, to think about that you're starting at the bottom and working up and taking that ladder. And that ladder will take some time, but you will get there.
Yeah, exactly. And you'll get there really quickly obviously within cyber, right? But I think that's so important. Get some runs on the board for your
Hmm.
first 2 years. And then
Yep,
from that, there's going to be some amazing opportunities. And that sounds like your plan, right? Head down,
that
learn,
is. Yep,
get some runs on the board for this organization, whether that's internal or external. That's when the opportunities are going to come for you. Amazing.
definitely,
Now, you've
definitely.
already probably answered this question, to be fair, but I like to finish all of the episodes with this specific question. Maybe we
Hmm.
can adjust it to what we were talking about before. So, I guess I'd love for you to share your top 3 tips For
Yeah.
somebody that is listening, we talked about fear earlier, holding you back, and
Mhm.
you were in one industry for a long time.
Mm.
For someone that's in that position now, they're listening to this podcast, what would be your top 3 tips to them? They're thinking about getting into cybersecurity, but they're a little bit fearful.
Sure. My top 3 tips. Number 1, there's more to cyber than meets the eye. Sorry to use a little bit of an old sort of part of an 80s cliche sort of thing here. Because there's a lot more to think about than just what, cyber and hacking and things like that. So always be mindful about what there is in cyber and what you can do in it rather than just what the cliche is. So look wide is virtually one of the things I say. Keep learning and keep exploring, whether that's while you're thinking about, should I take the leap? But even after you take the leap, is you got to keep learning and exploring because the more you do that, the more you get to understand because it changes quite a lot. What we will be talking about now will be different to what it is in 5 years. And once Microsoft and their Copilot and Apple and their AI comes in, that's going to be a whole different conversation. So keep learning, keep exploring, is my second tip. And then the third tip is have a go. Um, if because I think I've succeeded a lot in having that go. Sometimes I've had that fear, and I've actually sort of at times sort of have said no to some things, but I've been able to say yes to things strategically, and so having by actually having that benefit of going, I can do this. Let's have a go. So looking wide, keep learning, and have a go is really the big 3 tips that I have that would help. And you're going to be in this for a while. This is a long journey. This isn't the sprint. This is the marathon. And so think of it as your marathon, and you could still be in it for the time you retire or longer, even.
Not
So
going anywhere.
you're not going to get everything now.
The industry is
Mm,
not going anywhere. And that's what but if you listen to this podcast, you hear me say all the time who the cybersecurity industry is for. Yes, you've got all these other transferable skills, but you have to be someone that is a lifelong learner. You just have
mm,
to be. Otherwise, you're not going to enjoy it. Um, and so that's probably the number one tip we hear a lot is
definitely,
enjoy learning new skills and certifications because that's what you have to do.
definitely.
Amazing, Ross. Thank you so much. I know you are incredibly busy, so I really, really appreciate you coming on the show.
No, that's quite fine. I've got my student success meeting straight after this. Would
Oh,
you
you
believe?
know, who's yours?
Meeting Angel shortly.
Oh, you're meeting with Angelica. Amazing. Shout out to Angel. She's amazing, isn't she?
Angel's fantastic, and I was even speaking with Jason on Tuesday night for my first exam prep
Yep.
for Network Plus.
Yep.
Um, Definitely look at having an organization such as Cyber Revolution to give you that extra help. You can do this on your own and you can do it cheaply, but if you want help with mentorship, with having the right learning materials, having the opportunity to speak to people, but then also using that as your base to then expand further. So I've used more than just the Cyber Revolution learning materials, but that's a good starting base. And then you have the people to help you, the backing of an organization to help you. So yes, shout out to all the crew at Cyber Revolution, and definitely you take up the opportunities that they present to you.
Amazing. Appreciate that, man. I think it's really important. You were, as you said, fortunate, lucky, or just as well hardworking to get a job. Excuse me, to get a job a week or so into your studies.
Mm,
And some people might be listening and thinking, oh, I don't even need to study to get a job in cybersecurity. I can just apply for a role and and it'll fall in my lap. That's not going to be the case. You mentioned at the start when you spoke to the gentleman who offered you the opportunity, he
yeah.
saw that you took it seriously. He saw that you have
Yes.
invested into yourself
Mm,
to do these studies. And that's a big thing. If a
mm,
company, if you interview for a company and you just say that you enjoy cybersecurity, but you haven't actually invested in yourself and invested in learning, then it shows that you're not taking it seriously.
mm.
So that's a really important thing to take away, guys. If you're listening in and you just think you can just apply for a cyber job and get it without any certifications or doing a course, then good luck. um,
Good luck. But if you don't know and you've got the passion to invest and learn, the world could be your oyster. You just never know.
yeah, amazing, amazing. Thanks, Ross. I'm sure that a lot of people got a lot of value out of this. If you did, everyone, please like, comment, subscribe to our YouTube channel or the podcast, leave us a review. And if you want to know a little bit more about the job placement program that Ross has gone through, is going through, then all you need to do is head to cyberrevolution.com.au, leave your details there, and the team will be in touch. Thanks for listening.